The one thing is if you over toast it too quick, you can kind of sear the outside, but it's raw on the inside. That's another reason why a lower heat helps you heat the whole way through. So just maybe because you see a brown on the outside doesn't mean you've gotten all the stuff out of the inside. But you see the eggshells transforming, and they weren't all brown like this. Some of them are white, but they're starting to get nice and toasty like a marshmallow. And the more we can stir this around and get them evenly out, see all the smoke? That's like water and all kinds of things coming out. And that's the reason I don't just take raw ones and put it in, because they won't absorb the vinegar as well for dissolution. And this, the whole reason for going through all this trouble, why not just take my eggshells and throw them into the soil, is that we're going through a process of water solubility. So when we dissolve this with the vinegar in the next step, it's now water soluble, and it can go directly into your plant. And that means you can get calcium into your plant in less than 15 minutes. And by 3 hours, you should definitely see the effect. And every other method of calcium that I've heard of is like, you know, liming your soil, putting calcium in your grow material, and that takes months for the microbes to break it down and then get it to your plant. And so this, you can fix a calcium deficiency in minutes versus years. You can respond actually to weather conditions with this. Whereas if you get a lot of over rain, things start drooping, you can come in with the calcium, and this adds the structure back to it.
And would you ever do just calcium, or would you always mix it with the OHN and the BVR?
Yes, so I'd always kind of make a combo mix of this to say, okay, I know I want to do my calcium, but what I'm going to go do is, sorry, the vocabulary is weird, but I'll just call it a fruit solution, right? So I'm going to do that, which includes the calcium and has those other foods. But also recognizing what all those components are in there to really get it across. So it's, yeah, we're getting nice, maybe a little more heat on this. And then see if we can winnow it too. Just like pull across it and see if stuff will come out of there. Yeah, if we could flip it and winnow it at the same time. It's asking for eggshells to be on the ground, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
With that being winnowed.
Alright. Nice, yeah. There we go.
Testing with the flip.
He was a chef, you know.
Yep.
It was for a while.
Really good at the cast iron.
And that's the membrane coming out. And the membrane, if you have the membrane in there, it's just going to be less shelf stable for you. You'll notice it'll start smelling like rotten eggs, and you're like, what the fuck? And that's because you left the membrane in, and or you didn't cook out enough of the organic matter. So if your calcium later is, smells like rotten eggs, toasting needs to be a little better. So we could throw a little more heat into this. It's about 80% of the way there. And you can do this from oyster shells type of stuff, same way. We use OPE shells where I am.
How long does it take? A lot longer doing oyster shell, like in a pan, or is there with them being a denser shell, is there a better way to toast them in the oven, or?
I don't know, because I've never used the oyster shells.
They barbecue.
Barbecue work?
Mm-hmm.
Off the flame, or?
Well, I haven't tried it on gas. I just did it with charcoal.
Yeah.
It was already broken before.
I did it with gas, and I laid down some tinfoil because I didn't want my next meal to taste like oysters.
Yeah.
And it worked great. I just charred them till I could snap them with the back of a knife. Worked awesome.
They just
I have sampled people's stuff, and all of a sudden it tastes like hamburgers. And it's because the grease from the bottom of their barbecue is coming up and getting into it. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah.
This way is how I do my eggshells. When I go to do my bones, I take 2 grill starters and put them on top of each other. The bottom one's filled with charcoal, the top one's filled with bones that I crush with a hammer down to like thumb size or reasonable, and light the bottom, and it just goes right through. And the bones, you wanna kick it over when the bones start to light on fire themselves. When your bones actually start to catch fire, because if you let the bones the bones will burn. So if you don't put them out when they're on fire, they'll just turn to ash.
Do you have to break them up before putting them in the chimney?
It makes it a little bit easier. It's just kind of more homogeneous sizes and things. And then after I get them out from the fire, then I'll crush them even smaller. I'm not trying to powder it, but I'm trying to get the surface area as small as I can. I crush it to the size of these eggshells. And the bones, once they're charred, they're so easy to crush.
Do you cook them solid white?
No, they're usually little bit white on the outside, but black.
Okay.
If they're powdery, you overcook them. And
I always wondered about that because they say in the book like char them, which to me means like turn them into charcoal, which would be like they're all silver and you can poof them when they're dry, you know. But it's more just like charring the outside.
just before that.
Yeah.
It's not turning them to ash. It's
Right.
turning them to where it's like coal looking, real black.
So it's glassy till you drop it and it tingles. So actual like
Yeah, you can
charcoal.
actually hear it, like
Yeah.
when you crack it, it's gonna have a,
Yeah.
you know, similar to like when
Okay, and the
stem's
heat where it's
drying
at is
out,
much
and
safer
Yeah.
than how I was
you
initially
want
doing
that
it.
same kind of.
But not black inside at all. Just
No, so there's schools of thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's what I
where
was wondering.
There's
just not
guys
brown.
outside of the country that do it with the black on the inside. They char it so
Completely.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. Like
But
bone
and I
char.
mean like in the bones will just
Yeah.
you know like
It's
a
an-
chick. It'll be like a chicken bone even though it's like an
Yeah.
elk or something.
Yeah, totally. But not quite to that state usually. You're talking more like the outside, and when you smash it up finer, it's not all blackened. There's a little color in it, like a little bit of lighter.
Yeah. What do you think?
Brown's undercooked, white's overcooked, so you want to be right in the middle.
Oh, if it's getting to ash.
Black with a little bit of white.
I overcook mine slightly. You know,
Yeah.
But not where I pick it up and it's gonna just be ash under my hands. I pick it up and I pick it up, hit it and it shatters.
So if you're doing this in large scale, it's worth. There's a Boston company that has a great biochar oven that works freaking fantastic.
who does?
It's a Boston company. I'll try to remember later. But they do a 30-gallon inside of a 50-gallon. Right, and that works. That turns out amazing.
Okay,
But that biochar company, and you can use it for your biochar too.
Yeah, I've made one like that.
Yeah, so
It's
use
pretty
it.
simple. So yeah,
Same thing.
okay, we use it for that. Okay.
Yeah, so you like
You
so.
can do a lot. Yeah, what you're saying with
Yeah, and it's worth it because you're going to use biochar throughout a bunch of things. And if you're also compounding, you can use that biochar into your filtering to help scrub it.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so that thing never runs out of the. For the $300 you pay for that thing, it'll earn its money in no time.
After you make the first yard.
Yeah,
Possibly.
basically.
Charcoal at the grocery stores.
Yeah, but it's cool. You can find all like leftover debris and just try that too.
So we're getting really close to where this is good. You know, we started initially with a pretty high heat where we really had to stir the crap out of it. This is a probably better heat to go with, but it's going to take obviously more time. But if you notice now, if you try scoop up some and drop them down from a height, more of a clinky, glassy type noise as opposed to the eggshells, and that's kind of a sign that they're They're just all the water's coming out of the inside, and we're like pretty much ready. That's what we're trying to get to. So, you know, a few more minutes on here. Some of them obviously got a little black and slightly overcooked, but that's not gonna, you know, we're right in there. And majority of the white eggs are now tan like a good marshmallow, and that's where we're at. So the name change, and then Guion was also saying, you see how they're like kind of stacking up in this different formation now. It's also a sign that there's kind of finishing up. Just interesting observations. So we got that. We have some vinegar.
We can get some vinegar.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'll go do that.
You know, it's, yeah.
Container.
Yeah. And,
Oh, yeah.
and a mason jar. Yeah, vinegar and a mason jar.
Gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a bunch.
I had a question that's somewhat related to vinegar. Is there a way to like make large amounts of rice wine without having to buy large amounts of the rook, the starter stuff for it? You ever made it?
So vinegar, like fruit vinegar, is kind of the good stuff. Grain vinegar is what they want. And so, I make it out of bananas a lot. I just have shitloads of them. So explaining the process from my perspective, and you'll probably have an idea. Essentially, if you can make banana wine,
Yeah.
so that's me taking the fruit, mixing it with a bit of sugar, adding in some sort of yeast into it, and then putting a gas off, no oxygen in, so just an outlet on there. And I leave that for a week, 2 weeks. It's going to turn into an alcohol, because the yeast are going to go nuts and they're just going to convert all those sugars into alcohol. Then if I take that now and I take a bit of cooked brown rice and I like mush that into my alcohol that I've made,
Yeah.
this will now convert to a vinegar, and part of the starches they're using are this brown rice starch that's in there.
Kind of like a workaround of making rice
Yeah.
fruit vinegar.
Yeah, instead of going pure that way, I'm going this way, and it's a hack, right? It's not there's a lot of reasons to go through the whole process, especially when you look at the biology and the subtleties of the different acids that you're making, all that.
Right.
But this is like a hack to do it. Create the alcohol, then you open it to the air with your brown rice, and now the acetic acetobacters, those guys, the vinegar producing guys, start to come and live, and they start to convert that alcohol now into vinegar. And so that then makes it, you know, basically down to like a 2.5 week process to go from fruit to alcohol to vinegar.
And you put in cooked brown rice? Just like equal volume? How much would you put in?
No, it's just a seed to it. So in a 5 gallon bucket, it's like a ball of rice that we're just gonna kind of mush in there. And that's how to make any like kind of custom vinegars you want. You can add in right at that transition between the alcohol to now going to the vinegar stage. You can add these extra foods in. It'll kind of help how they make that vinegar.
That's just a way to speed it up instead of doing that, adding the water and letting it sit for 6 months, or adding a
Making
SCOBY.
rice wine, yeah.
And adding the SCOBY into it is just a way of, you know, recycling. You're done with your FPJ. You got this leftover material, but that's not the only way to get vinegar.
Yeah.
So could you use like kombucha? If you let it go to vinegar, like if you let it go.
I have a lot of kombucha vinegar. I let it go too far.
Kombucha vinegar is good, but it's not a fruit vinegar. It's not a grain vinegar. So it's a different type of vinegar. So it has different properties. I haven't fully looked at it, but the fruit and grain vinegar, the reason we use those specifically when it calls for BRV in our thing is it's acidic, but upon metabolization it alkalizes the environment. And almost every living environment wants to be alkaline to be healthy. So you take on this BRV, it alkalizes the system, and that's why we're using that specifically. It's like we're not dumping like white vinegar in at that time. It doesn't have that same transition property. However, for this here, where we're gonna dissolve these things, we're not worried about the alkaline to acidic flip. What we're worried about is dissolving this calcium. And so in this stage here where we're gonna dissolve this eggshells, we can use white vinegar. We can use the cheapest available to you, you know, because you're just using that chemical reaction. So that's kind of a little bit on the different vinegars. Like, you know, certain times calls for BRV, other times it's like you just need the acidic quality of it. So the cheapest kind you can get, the better.
They like the smell of that.
Yeah, they do.
Plus.
It smells like death, right?
Yeah.
Crematorium
Does.
smell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we're toasting out of there is we don't want in there anyway. Baby chickens.
Baby chickens in the booth.
So yeah, we're all out in the sun and there's not really in the sun. So, let's go back to the shade.
Right on.
So kill this guy?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll turn that off and then when we get back we'll dissolve that in
Good.
so after